Hello, Canadians. Justin Trudeau has just called a federal election for September 20th, 2021. This selfish act is occurring during unprecedented forest fires in British Columbia, where entire cities have been destroyed, a global pandemic, and financial unrest in every province in Canada. This is not the time for a $600 million election. We need to tell him he's made a mistake and vote him out. To understand Justin Trudeau, we have to first look at his role model, his father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, former Prime Minister of Canada. Trudeau Sr. is remembered as a friend of dictators, a playboy showboat, and a poor money manager that left Canada in debt.
Of all the U.S. presidents and Canadian prime ministers Fidel Castro saw come and go, he only really built a rapport with one person, one prime minister, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. The same Trudeau who in 1960 got the bright idea to paddle a homemade canoe from Florida to Cuba. Stopped by the elements, then mocked by politicians at home. Mocking that only got worse when he became prime minister and reached out to Cuba politically and personally.
Justin Trudeau learned three key things from his father. 1. How to alienate his country. 2. How to rule as a dictator. And 3. How to spend more money than Canadians could afford. Let's watch as we see how Justin Trudeau has followed in his father's footsteps and gets admonished by the media and other leaders around the world.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is being sharply criticized for his praise of the former Cuban president.
And now he's getting his own serving of criticism for his eulogy that said, while controversial, Castro was a legendary revolutionary and orator who made significant improvements to Cuba's education and healthcare system. President Obama said history will judge Castro's impact. Around the world, pundits and politicians are calling Trudeau a fool and worse. Senator Ted Cruz called his eulogy disgraceful, and Senator Marco Rubio asked if it was a parody.
If you are a supporter of Justin Trudeau, we ask you to have an open mind and listen carefully and learn about the person you have voted for.
I mean, the fear in here is that the first step towards registering your guns is just the first step towards taking away guns from everyone. That's never going to happen because here in Canada, we have a culture that has grown up with guns and that respects the need to go out into the wilderness and shoot things from time to time. It's part of it.
We are banning 1,500 models and variants of these firearms by way of regulations.
Gun ownership in Canada, in this country, is a privilege and not a right.
To truly understand how deceitful and disingenuous Justin Trudeau and his cabinet are regarding firearms issues in Canada, you must understand the statistics. On average, there are between 600 and 700 homicides in Canada each year. Of those homicides, there are on average 250 gun deaths per year. 80% of those gun deaths are suicide. The Trudeau government is introducing legislation to penalize gun owners, making it harder to use your weapon for sport or hunting, and they are telling you that there are major gun problems in Canada.
After a year-long investigation, Ethics Commissioner Mary Dawson found the Prime Minister broke 4 rules by staying on the Aga Khan's private island in the Bahamas, by taking his private helicopter to get there, by holding private meetings about the Aga Khan's endowment fund, and by failing to protect himself from a potential conflict of interest.
Sorry, let me just try to reorder the thoughts. We worked with the
lobby.
To the people of Canada, I ask you directly, how many times will we allow Justin Trudeau to get away with pushing strong, competent, capable women out of politics when they are seeking to serve?
Canadians are tired of their rights being taken away, censorship from the federal government, and our hard-earned money being given to other countries. Many Canadians, including First Nations, are paying the price while Justin Trudeau and his cabinet favor support for foreign entities, Trudeau's family and friends, versus hard-working, tax-paying Canadians.
How would you describe Trudeau's visit to India?
Well, I would say that Prime Minister Trudeau's visit to India has been a colossal failure of diplomacy and leadership skills on his part.
The Trudeau government is introducing bills designed to restrict your free speech. Millions of social media posts could be deemed as illegal and punished with fines and jail time.
Mr. Trudeau praised Castro as a, quote, larger-than-life leader who served his people for almost half a century, and a, quote, legendary revolutionary orator who, quote, made significant improvements in the education and health care on his island nation. Tell that to the people in the prisons. Tell that to the people who have been tortured and murdered by Fidel Castro.
CBC News has learned that months before being escorted out of Canada's highest security microbiology lab, federal scientist Jianguo Chu sent 30 vials of 15 different strains of Ebola and Hennepin virus to Wuhan, China.
We know that in 2018 they started bringing students, interns with deep connections to the Chinese military from China to do work on this virus research. In 2019, they sent dangerous virus samples to a laboratory in China, the Wuhan virus laboratory. We know from public records, like patent documents, that the work being done by these scientists specifically was on gain of function for viruses. That's where they're actually trying to improve the efficacy of a virus, its transmissibility, and in some cases, in bioweapons research, its deadliness. Now, who authorized transfers of dangerous, deadly viruses? Who authorized this high level of cooperation and collaboration with the Chinese military? CSIS told Mr. Trudeau not to do it. He was advised that this type of partnership, because of the risk of bioweapons research, should not be taking place. The Trudeau government ignored those warnings.
Which nation's administration do you most admire?
At a controversial fundraiser dubbed Ladies' Night, Trudeau said this.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime.
That comment is an insult to this man. He says he was unjustly imprisoned and tortured, all because he spoke out against the Chinese dictatorship.
But my case was only a tip of the iceberg.
Suddenly, Canada is a flagrant violator of the most basic human rights. Fail a COVID test and they will lock you up without trial and go ahead and try to disobey. According to the Canadian government, anyone who attempts to avoid these rules, detention in a government internment facility, for example, could face a $1 million fine and 3 years in prison. This is Justin Trudeau's Canada.
Canada is a free country. It says so in our national anthem. We need to stop Justin Trudeau the man who likes dictators, who admires what they stand for, and wants to be like them. This has to stop. The debt is mounting. Justin Trudeau has borrowed and printed more money than any prime minister in the history of Canada. Just look at the staggering numbers as he spends Canada into a financial crisis never seen before. Canadians are responsible with their money. Why does Justin Trudeau believe he doesn't have to be?
Again, my question is, what veterans were you talking about? Was it the ones that fought for the freedoms and values that you so proudly boast about, or was it the ones who fought against?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your passion and your strength and being here today to share this justifiable frustration and anger with me and with all of us here. Thank you for having the courage to stand here, and thank you for listening to my answer. On a couple of elements you brought up. First of all, why are we still fighting against certain veterans groups in court? Because they are asking for more than we are able to give right now.
Would it worry you to go into deficit in this current climate to, as you say, put more people to work?
The commitment needs to be a commitment to grow the economy, and the budget will balance itself.
We decided to take on that debt to prevent Canadians from having to do it.
Canada cannot afford Justin Trudeau's spending. His goal is to show the world how generous he is. The problem is that money belongs to hardworking Canadians. It's been estimated that our children and their children could be paying for Justin Trudeau's philanthropy for 70 years if we don't stop him. The only way to stop this is to vote him out. This election boils down to this. What kind of future do you as a Canadian want for your family and friends? Do you want to live in a country where personal choice and freedoms are respected? Or do you want to live in Justin Trudeau's world where the focus is the pursuit of communism, socialism, restriction of internet speech and personal speech, and giving away of your hard-earned money to other countries while the Canadian people suffer? This is not the Canada we have grown up in and will never see again if Justin Trudeau wins this election. For some, voting for anyone other than the Liberals or even the NDP who agree with Justin Trudeau's socialist policies, it may be difficult. But if you want your rights intact, you must vote for Conservatives who value Canadians.